Hey everybody, thank you all so much once again for tuning into another episode of the Hue Capital Podcast with yours truly, Jerlisa Juju Fontaine. As you all know, the purpose of this podcast is to introduce you all to Black, Latinx, and Brown folks who are just really doing amazing things in their industries, right? These people can either be corporate climbers or founders or just people who are just doing generally amazing things that are creating impact and also generating revenue, right? I think we're in a stage where it's important to do good things, but we definitely have to sustain livelihood, right? So definitely want to make sure we're bringing in them dollars at the same time. So today I have a lovely guest who I've been following for quite some time now. Her name is Christine Michel Carter. It's funny because I think it was, I want to say January or so. I forgot how I stumbled upon her page. But she had this title where it was like the #1 global voice for working moms. And I just never heard somebody brand themselves as that. I was like, most women, they're perceived to, be in corporate spaces and their whole life is just their job and that's it. And even though I know there are women who obviously focus and prioritize on being a mother, I just never seen them brand that and shout that. But here's this beautiful woman who's definitely doing it and shouting it at the top of her lungs. So before I get too carried away, because I can brag about her all day, I do want to kind of give you all a little bit more insight into who she is. And then we're going to have her speak and introduce herself, right? Because she knows who she is more than anybody else. All right, y'all, bear with me. So, featured in the New York Times and the Washington Post, Christine Michel Carter is the #1 global voice for working moms. She has been called a working mom who's changing the world, the mom of mom influencers, a branding mastermind, one of the funniest parents on social media, the exec inspiring millennial moms, and the voice of millennial moms for her above average social media engagement rates. Christine is also the associate editor for Modern Mom and contributes to Forbes Women as a senior contributor. She has written over 100 articles, yes, I said 100, with 500K views for several publications, including Time and Parents. Christine clarifies misconceptions about working mom consumers for brands and serves as an amplifier of their personal truths. From delivering consumer insights and brand marketing content to helping HR and diversity teams attract and retain these hardworking professionals, Christine works with advertising agencies, research firms, and companies to ensure that they are at the forefront of the minds of female consumers. So if I have any working moms who are listening today, just know that you're going to be very inspired, and you may want to join her on this journey of really repping the working moms. So anyway, that's what I have for you all. Christine, please fill in the gaps. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself and what I may have not mentioned as yet.
You are so kind. Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Michel Carter. The only thing I think that was missed was that I am the mom to the 2 cutest goddamn kids on the planet. That is Maya, who is 9, and West, who is 5.
Oh my God. Tell us a little bit about your kids, right? Like, tell us about them. How are they?
They're great. They have their own personality and they're sticking true to their personalities right now during the pandemic. My daughter is creating and is crafting her little heart away and is just so inspired every day and is a diva and she's amazing. And my son is a romantic and a Lothario and is always up under his mother. His nickname is Oedipus West. It has been since he was 5. Since he was born, and he's now 5. So they're doing well. They're doing well. Thank you for asking.
No, of course, of course. And like I say, I just think it's so fulfilling to just see you be so transparent about, once again, working in corporate America, having your own brand, and just really even being transparent about motherhood and talking about what's going on with the kids at home. Because the reality is COVID has brought us even more closer because we actually have to be at home doing work and the kids are present there too. So before we get into the serious stuff, kind of describe that a little bit. How has COVID transformed your familial structure?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough that I had wanted to save up for a nanny over the summer. So I do have some help over the summer, but this new back to school year for the fall, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's very scary, and I saved up for a nanny over the summer just because of my mental health already. I'm a single mom, and doing it on my own was starting to become a little bit taxing. But my heart goes out to every working mom out there because just the fact that our administration and the education system don't know what to do. What are we supposed to do? You know, we look to them for the answers. So COVID has definitely turned my world upside down. It's turned my kids' world upside down, and they're finding ways to cope and try and have a sense of normalcy and control in a really uncontrollable situation.
Absolutely. And thank you for being so honest and transparent about that. I think that it's true, right? I think that everybody's asking mothers, fathers, whoever it is, hey, like, what are you going to do, right? What's your solution to this problem? And in reality, if you think it's hard for these larger institutions to kind of get it together and find the right result, what do you think I'm experiencing, right? Like, do you really think that I have all the answers? I'm trying to figure it out just like everybody else. And I think that your truth is everybody's truth right now. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. So we're going to transition a little bit, right? We actually want to start thinking about and exploring like your career journey, right? Like you are this marketing and branding expert, right? And as an extension to that, you are focused on being the voice of these working moms, but that wasn't always your brand, right? So talk a little bit about your career journey when you first came out of college and what it looks like working for these corporations.
Sure. So when I was in college, my senior year, I was the director of marketing for a regional retailer who had 12 store locations on the East Coast. And kind of worked my way up to that position from being just a web associate on their .com site. And then I decided after I graduated college, like a year after that, that I really wanted to, I had already was consulting on the side and really wanted to take my small business company to the next level. So I left that retailer and started working with small business mom and pop stores, helping them with reaching Generation Y at the time consumers, now called millennial consumers. And from there, I did a lot of work with the city of Baltimore with their downtown retail development. And the recession hit. So once the recession hit, a lot of small business retailers were closing, just like they are right now, unfortunately. And I got a job offer from a startup that was looking to expand into Baltimore and wanted me, because of my background with working with the city of Baltimore, to serve as the market manager, but also kind of a economic development liaison. So I did that, helped them launch the Baltimore market, grew it to be profitable, helped launch the Paris and the Barcelona market as well. And then I got a position with McCormick, which is my day job, as doing global consumer strategy. So did that for 5 years. Very fun, very great company, very great place to work. Got to work on a variety of different projects, and then transitioned from that department into a multicultural marketing department for the company. So that is my current role. Very exciting, very challenging. Obviously, it's within the 130 years of the company. It's a new department, so
right.
It's comes with its own set of challenges. I'm sure I'm new to the role, but also in the middle of that, I had my 9-year-old and my 5-year-old. Yeah.
And I'm so glad you mentioned this keyword, challenges, because that's actually my follow-up question, right? I think it was great that you talked about kind of entering that startup space. So everybody's, really in a frenzy about, partaking in the startup world and finding the right companies to jump into. So discuss a little bit about what challenges did you experience when you came into that startup environment?
So some of the challenges I experienced was no one anticipated a recession occurring. And I was a millennial who had just gotten out of school, already had student loans, and now a recession is hitting. And this is supposed to be the most exciting and prosperous time of my life. And it totally wasn't. It was scrounging and scrapping to make ends meet. And then thank goodness, by the time I went to another startup that was a little bit more established, they were still pre-seed, but I was able to have like health insurance and benefits and all of that kind of stuff, which, when you're a small business startup, that's not always the case.
That is very true. And then to kind of get into the global concept, right? I know that for me and my peers, so I'm 24 years old. So obviously I'm definitely not global yet. It would be nice to be. But I think that whenever we see these titles of global something, the first question that comes to our mind is, how do you reach a global audience, right? For somebody in your role, finally getting into this global sector? Like, how does that work? How do you target that global market?
Well, it's almost, sorry about that. So it's almost organic when you're on social media and you are running a digital based product or service. It's almost organic that you're going to reach global customers. So I didn't start off with the idea that I wanted to be the global voice for working moms. I just wanted to make sure that my writing was strong and the content was great, and make sure that I was speaking to my target audience. And just from having authentic and relevant content, I started to get in more national publications and then more global publications. And then through my social media, through analytics, I started to notice that a lot of people in the UK and in Africa and China were reading my writing too. In Australia, I have a lot of people from Australia. So it really, no one can ever be a master. I'm rambling, but I look at Alexander the Great and how he tried to just conquer the world and name all these different cities after himself. But at home, his home base was just suffering. And it's the same concept. Like, if I established a really good foundation locally and then scaled that to regionally and then scaled that to nationally, and then it became global. But I never lost sight of the importance of having a really strong foundation locally, and then also making sure that the foundation of the product that I was offering or my writing was very tight.
And I love that comparison, how you kind of brought it back into history, right? It's like, trying to dominate everything, but little did he realize his own city is shattering. And for you, you recognize, I can't have that, right? If I am going to be reaching these global audiences, I need to make sure that my people who are here are hearing me and actually experiencing something positive from my influence. Right. So that makes you a true leader in opposition to who, right?
Thank you.
Of course, I love it. So what we're going to do is I want to talk more about, now that you have been putting out this content, right? Years ago, right? Putting out this content, talking about being a working mom, people are seeing you and hearing you. How did you start to, struggle with balancing the growth of this? Because maybe you didn't anticipate that rapid growth while actually balancing your 9 to 5.
Well, I'm really thankful that you think it's rapid growth, because it has not been. I have been writing for the past 13 years. So if anything, it's been slow and steady growth, which is what I like. And when it becomes unmanageable, then I have to take things off of my plate, right? But it has not been rapid growth at all. And it's been a lot of transparency and setting expectations with my employer, and then also letting them know that this is my passion, and also integrating it, which I know I'm fortunate enough to do and not everybody can, but integrating it into my 9 to 5. So whenever I speak about Black millennials or Black consumers, I'm sharing that information and that data with my 9 to 5 so that they can make more strategic decisions around multicultural marketing.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep going. That pause.
Oh, no.
But no, I think that's really good. And I love how you kind of felt like, to kind of ensure that my personal work is integrated in my actual work. I think that you kind of making them feel comfortable by receiving some of that data that you have that you're working on makes them feel like, okay, I feel like what she's doing isn't taking away from the company. In a way, it's actually helping us. So it really can't be a problematic situation. So I think that transparency is actually powerful. I want to talk about... So, for example, for a lot of people, when we start doing things that we like just for the fun of it, it's a hobby. We're not thinking about making it a real business and profiting from the name and filing what is an LLC or something of that sort. So when did you realize it was time to take this from just being a voice and a hobby to being that and an actual business and just more?
Oh, I mean, minute one. I don't play around with liability and insurance and protecting myself, even with my quote unquote hobbies and small businesses. So everything I have is either trademarked or LLC'd and has been since day one. I find it very important to invest in your operations through things like making sure that you have the legal support that you need, the insurance that you need, the filings, all of that, the financial advisors. I'm always and have been very tight about that. Even more so to making sure that that's tight versus the services. And it's crazy, but I write with emotion and write from my gut. But when it comes, so my writing is very organic. The way I operate my business is not. Like, don't get it twisted.
No, and honestly, that's real. That's the truth. And it's so funny because I'm always thinking about people who are just content creators, right? There's so many young people right now who are very passionate about writing, but sometimes in this very tech-driven world, they're a little discouraged, right? They feel like, is journalism or writing still appreciated? Is there room for me to even make money off the kind of content that I'm creating? So I feel like just kind of viewing people like yourself who is finding ways to make revenue based off something you love, I think that's actually motivating them to keep going, right? Yeah. So I think my follow-up question on that would be, how does someone who is a writer, right, someone who is a content creator like yourself, how do you make money?
So in the beginning, it is very difficult. You can do things like have a blog and set up affiliate marketing, but once you really start to get an audience, then it's time to reach out to different bloggers and see about maybe cross-promotional marketing and content writing so that you can gain an even larger audience. And from that, you could then start to go to like local trade publications and trade blogs and trade publications to do your writing, just so that you build a stronger network and a little bit more of a professional writing resume. From there, then you can pitch the national dogs like the Forbes and the Time, because you have a track record and you've written for other publications, not just your own personal blog. And that's like the number one question I hear is, how do I start writing for Forbes? I wrote this paragraph. Do you think it's good? Do you think I should be in Forbes? And it's like, hell no. You know how long it took me to get into Forbes? I was writing for 9 years.
Wow.
Before I even pitched them. And when I did, I came through so tight that I got a contributor gig, and then I got a senior contributor gig. But it was because I had built up a reputation with my writing and built up a really good writing resume. These things, I love these younger generations, and now I'm gonna sound like a baby boomer, but things just don't happen overnight.
It's true. Absolutely. And it's so funny you say that, because even for me, right, when I found you, I see this person who is very consistent, this person who is branded well, has all of this engagement, but I wasn't there from 13 years ago to see the journey. So for me, I look at you as an overnight success. Do I think it's exactly that? Maybe not, but I'm seeing the success in front of me, and that's all I see, right? And I think
that's right.
Because we encounter people who are already flourishing and we probably didn't meet or find them before that, it gives you this thought that everything should happen for me very quickly, and that's not the reality. You missed all the transparency. You weren't there from the beginning. So I think that you, however, in your narrative, you're always just kind of going back and talking about things that you've experienced in the past to bring people back to the fact, listen, like I said before, I have this now, but it wasn't always this glamorous. So that truth is very important. And I think that you kind of describing the process of pitching yourself to become a contributor is also very important. I think that if you can give us a little detail on what does that process look like? So what I mean by that is, when you are pitching these companies, are you just sending them a portfolio of articles? Do they want to call you and hear you talk about yourself? Like, what is that conversation like?
Yeah, so that looks like sending them an email that's relevant to their beat. So if somebody is the music editor, you don't want to send them an article about finance. It looks like giving them a catchy title in the subject line that maybe has a metric or some type. It's kind of like a resume where you want your resume to be heavy in metrics and time saved and amount of money saved. The same principles apply when you're pitching, because basically when you're doing a resume and sending it to employers, you're pitching yourself. So the subject line needs to be pitch worthy, and then the actual body of the email that you send, you can tell them that you're happy to send them writing samples, but they're not going to look at that first cold email that you're sending. They want to know what and so what. So what are you talking about? How is it relevant to the economy or to society right now? And so what? What do you have to say about it? Why should they listen to what you have to say about it? Who listens when you talk? And why you think it's a fit for them versus their competitor?
I love that. And you said something very important, right? You said who listens when you talk, right? So I have
Right.
a technical question to follow up on that. Now, you mentioned earlier how, not that it's easy, but it's been a little easier reaching global audiences because social media exists and is prominent in our culture. So I kind of want you to talk a little bit more about media, branding, marketing, etc., but from a technical lens, right? Like what kind of tools or what type of technology has helped you do the work that you do?
So I tell my assistant this because she's very good with inherent knowledge and gut and instinct, but that is only half of what makes you a successful marketer. The other half is insights and data and analytics. And every decision you make, even though you might have a gut and a hypothesis about it, you need to prove it out through insights and data and analytics. So I know where my audience is. I know where my audience is going to be the most engaged and the most vocal. I know what type of content to push out through what social media channels and who's going to be looking at it. And because of that, I've built a little bit of a voice in different channels, right? So with LinkedIn, a lot of people trust me to give them data about working moms or to share presentations that I've done versus Instagram, where I'm sharing more of my personal life and my experience as a working mom, versus Twitter, where I'm retweeting thought leaders and also jumping into conversations again with kind of hard data and facts. So just knowing that and building up those audiences and curating those audiences is really what helps to grow brands.
And you answered that question exactly how I wanted you to. So to my audience, I hope you were listening very carefully, right? I think it's so important that even though we know there are so many different media channels out there that we can utilize to market ourselves or market our brands, you have to be very specific and cautious about how am I going to use each platform? Am I really going to sit here and use Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram all in the same way? Or does my audience on each platform engage with information differently? And I think Christine did an amazing job at kind of classifying, hey, this is what my LinkedIn audience wants. Here's what my Twitter audience wants. Here's what my Instagram audience wants. And you really should proactively think that same way and dissect that. So Christine, evident, amazing, very, very clear explanation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I do want to talk a little bit more about entrepreneurship. So obviously what you're doing as the #1 global voice of moms is entrepreneurship. But what I also want to talk about is the fact that why is it that people don't call authors entrepreneurs as much, right? If you
that's
are an
interesting.
author, you are selling a product. The product is a book of my thoughts, my information, my everything. So let me get a little bit of insight on why do you think that is? Because that is entrepreneurial.
It absolutely is, and that's so interesting and so insightful that you say that. That is a miss, and people really don't understand that even in traditional publishing, it is such an antiquated industry where they expect you to do all of the marketing and advertising and give you very little budget to push the book. So even those who go the traditional publishing route have to be a little bit of an entrepreneur, much less those who self-publish. They are absolutely amazing at I'm sorry, my computer's, this is constant. I don't know how to shut this off. I'm old school. I don't know how to shut it off. But even the people who publish independently, my God, they have to worry about distribution and reaching customers, and there's just so much involved. They are absolute entrepreneurs. So that's really insightful for you to say.
No, absolutely. I always think that way. I always wonder, like, I'm watching, like, people who are authors go through the same struggle as somebody who is creating a business, and I'm not really understanding why that title isn't assigned to them. So what I want to do to follow up on that is, this might take you like 5 seconds to think about. I'm sure you've been asked this before, but two other authors or potential authors, excuse me, who are listening right now, what was like maybe one main, I guess, marketing initiative, right, that you did or put out to get like your 2 books out there and actually getting it purchased?
I teased the books, the chapters out, snippets of the book. I really made people salivate and very interested in the book, and made the title, like for Mom AF, I made the title attention grabbing, and I made the chapters attention grabbing, and I didn't sacrifice my content for the publisher, or the distributor. And I think that, that there's a lot to be said about that. I tried to go the traditional publishing route, and it took 3 years. And then I said, you know what, I'm not going to change my words or water them down. I'm just going to independently publish. And at the last minute, a small business publisher came and said, we'll publish the book. We absolutely love it. So I think that's the biggest thing, is stay true to yourself and make sure that you're communicating something that your audience really wants.
Absolutely. And I have to emphasize that too, because like I said, your brand is about being a working mom. But to all of those who are listening, she didn't just stamp working mom on the cover of her books, right? Like she really took the time to think about, well, if someone's going to be on Amazon searching for a books for moms, or if they actually are going to a local bookstore, if that's still a thing, God willing. And they actually run across that section. It's like, is working mom just going to be that catchy title? Probably not. So once again, she said, mom as fuck. Sorry for my language. The other title is Can Mommy Go to Work? And I felt like even that second title to me was very appealing, because it's like you're reading the title as a title, but it automatically kind of presents an emotion, right? It's like, it's true. As a kid or as a teen or whatever you are, maybe you're watching your mom go to work so often. It's like, damn, does my mom have to go to work? Like, can she go to work? I thought that was really like resonating. And I think that's very
thank you.
No, of course. Absolutely. So I want to kind of talk about like what was the thought process for that second title, Can Mommy Go to Work? Like what personal experience did you have that equated to that title?
So I just, that again was driven by insights and just the fact that so many women were challenged with work-life balance and thinking that exists and thinking that they can have it all. And I was just anecdotally hearing so many stories from women who felt guilty for loving their careers, or felt guilty for wanting to advance in their careers, and having these kids at home. And your kids, God bless them, they want to spend every moment with you. They love you. They can make you feel really guilty about leaving them. And, I've seen everything from the 2-year-old who types on the laptop when their mother is working, to kids who say, you love your job more than me. And all of that is not true. Every mother loves their children immensely. But all of that kind of rolled up in the idea of the children's book. And it's been really well received by moms and their children. I would make all of my books very quick reads, because I know people don't have a lot of time to read, but quick but impactful. And I'm very pleased with I'm pleased with both books, but my children helped me write Can Mommy Go to Work? And they're the main characters. They got to pick out their characters, and it's really a family book. So it will always be near and dear to my heart. And it was my first one, so it'll be near and dear to my heart.
I love it. And it's so cultural, right? Like the state of being a woman is a cultural thing. So, and you even being a Black woman also, that's another cultural factor. So I think I have a separate question now that I just said that. Ooh, go ahead, Juju. So I'm hoping this is not a problematic question. I'm thinking this is more of an inclusive question. But with you being a Black mom, right, in this corporate space, creating these books for obviously all moms, do you ever feel, or maybe ever heard something about, maybe it's not representative of all moms, like with you being Black and not white or something else? Like, has there ever been an issue with that?
No, because I'm very good about being inclusive.
Perfect.
Now, that doesn't mean that you don't know what race I'm putting paramount, because they are disproportionately affected in our nation. And when that day stops happening, then I'll advocate hard for all moms. But I am a number one, first and foremost, advocate for Black moms. But no, I've never heard that I'm not inclusive. If anything, I've heard that I definitely speak to all aspects of motherhood. So stepmothers and foster mothers and women who want to be mothers but aren't mothers, and lesbian couples or gay couples. I handle everything. I try to be as inclusive as possible.
And I honestly love that, because truth be told, when I come to your platform, it gives me inclusive vibes. Like I'm seeing a Black woman, but I don't necessarily feel like this is a platform that's only for Black women. I think you
Okay.
the broader sense of motherhood, and I think that's an amazing, powerful thing. Like I know what I see, I know who she is, I see how she carries herself. I know that's a Black woman. That's not a question. But I definitely see like this is somebody that all moms, no matter what their background is, they can see her as a friend, a colleague, or anything, a
Oh,
fake cousin, right? I think that's so like empowering.
thank you, Juju.
Of
Thank
course,
you.
of course, of course. So we are getting towards the end, y'all. So I'm gonna have about 2 to 3 more questions for the lovely Christine. But my next question actually would be, what are some very specific skills that young people who are breaking into this marketing and branding world, like what should they have? And I want soft and hard skills.
Sure. So some soft skills would be obviously the ability to show independence, to work independently, to have an entrepreneurial spirit, because there are a lot of times that your role will require you, or being an entrepreneur will require you to pivot and think pretty agile. Some harder skills that they'll need is to be able to read data. Big data popped up on the scene probably like 5 or 6 years ago and isn't going anywhere. If anything, it's feeding into even our social media. Like when Instagram first came out, it didn't have nearly the amount of data and insights that it has now. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to need to know how to read those things and how to interpret that and make recommendations for your business. If you work for an employer, if you know how to do that, that skill is pretty invaluable right now, especially when you think about the fact that older generations weren't so privy to that. So that's kind of a leg up that you have right there.
I love that. And I actually want to know, like, where can people go or how should they be practicing these skills?
Yeah, so that's tough. I can't think of any specific training that, at least at the basic level, that will help you look at data and make a decision. But they can always practice stretching that muscle by reading different finance publications, or reading Forbes and just looking at some of the articles. So, for example, when you look at national data that shows the number of business owners fell, and it fell mostly in Black communities by this percent, in Latin communities in this percent, in Asian communities by this percent. Start to stretch the muscle and realize, okay, who am I targeting? And if I'm targeting, for example, a Latin kind of professional, how many of them own businesses of my target client, and what type of services can I offer them, because I know that they're struggling right now as a business owner. So it's difficult to teach that skill, but over time, if you keep stretching it and keep practicing at it, it'll come a little bit more naturally. But it's about doing a lot of reading, a lot of looking at data, and determining, okay, this number is a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller than this number, which means X, and then it's time to make the recommendation of Y.
Love it, love it. And then I also think that that's essential when it comes to the job search, I guess, area per se. Like, how else can people like develop relationships to break into this, right? And the reason why I asked that is branding and marketing is always very exciting. People are always looking to kind of find out how to break into that industry or how to climb.
Yeah.
So I want to get a sense
Yeah.
of, in this field, like what kind of relationships should young people be building to authentically find themselves in these spaces, jobs, etc.
Yeah, so I always, like I said, a lot of young people have a lot of the inherent and just instinct, but they don't have a lot of the insights and the data. So familiarizing yourself with folks who are in analytics roles or research roles really sets you ahead of the competition, because it shows you're more than somebody who just wants to be team hustle or team grind, or you have a great idea. It shows that you're really willing to put in the research involved with being a marketer. That's the unsexy part that people really don't spend a lot of time talking about, which is why I'm trying to reiterate it over and over again how important it is. It's about just, giving your elevator pitch whenever you can, and letting folks know your passion and that you're interested in a career in marketing, and you're willing to be scrappy and read the data. Because I think back to a role that I was up for, and my resume spoke for itself and I had proven success, but the person told me this role isn't really that sexy at the time. They were like, this is really about looking at spreadsheets and making recommendations. And I was like, I love that. That's exactly why I've been successful, is because I'm willing to look at spreadsheets and dig into them. So those who are looking to break into it, you've got to prove that you're willing to do the hard work of just looking at the numbers to make decisions versus just a gut feeling.
I love how you made that differentiation, because I think that for a lot of us, obviously, because we're so familiar with TV advertisements and TV marketing, for us, we just think marketing is about creativity.
And it's not.
Bringing people together, whether it's animations or humans, and designing something funny and catchy. And it's like, that's all marketing is. And that's a great part of marketing. Don't get it twisted. It brings in the leads. It brings in the sales. But we have to start thinking about, how did they make that decision to even create that type of ad? Why did they want to exude that type of emotion into their audiences? It's because people like you who are looking at the numbers, they're saying, hey, the numbers show this is what our audience wants to see in a commercial or in a lead. Do it.
Yes, Juju. Yes.
Do it. Do that. So no, I love how you broke that down, because we're always having that conversation. I think that now that we're entering the future of work, where, like you mentioned before, big data is prominent. Big data is very important, right? Now we got to start thinking about, how do we ensure that this newfound workforce acknowledges that we need our creative marketers, but we need our research and technically driven marketers as well. So I love that breakdown, and I appreciate you for that.
Oh my God, I'm so happy you understood that. If I had done nothing with my life today, I am happy that you understood.
Listen, I told you I got you for sure. And I do have my one final question. Pretty sure you have an answer in the back of your head anyway, but once again, maybe you need 5 seconds for this one. Okay. I want to know, and I feel like you've answered this multiple times, but I'm going to just put it in a question for you to answer. What does the future of media and marketing look like?
Sure. The future of media looks like it's more consumer driven than, I guess, in traditional industry driven. So we look at the success of things like Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and on YouTube, and all of that is driven by the consumer or the viewer versus being driven by a studio or a production company. So continue to make great art, continue to build up a network, and there's a stronger chance that the traditional industry will follow you versus you beating down their door to be on traditional media. The future of marketing remains driven in data. So positions are looking more like people who have experience with understanding data and analytics, understanding consumer data or syndicated data and making decisions against that, understanding what predictive different methods and tactics are. So it's all really based in, like, the nerd side of marketing is what the future is going to be of marketing. Yeah. No one, I'm so glad, Juju, that you completely understand what I'm saying. The days of watching Mad Men and seeing them go off gut and drinking all day and making a decision for 5 minutes through an 8-hour day, that's not how marketing is. That is completely gone out the door, especially during the pandemic when people can't really get together and socialize and network as they used to. Now is the time when people are really watching what somebody is delivering. And a lot of that delivery is not based off of gut. They want to know that the delivery is based off of actual insights and data.
Love it. Powerful answers. And I'm so glad that you didn't answer them all together. You broke it down for future of media and future of marketing, because there is a difference, right? Your marketing media, it's not the same thing.
No,
so
it's not.
A differentiation. Honestly, Christine, this may have been one of my favorite interviews.
Oh,
it was very insightful. And I think it was insightful, once again, obviously, because once again, you are climbing the corporate ladder. You are doing these amazing things in these spaces. But on the flip side, you have been able to find a unique voice in this realm of marketing, right? You have found a niche community that honestly needs a larger, more amplified voice. So I do truly appreciate your work. In like 10 years or whatever years God gives me when I have my first kid, I will be looking soon, it will be you.
Oh, thank you, Juju. Please stay in
Of
touch.
course. Of
You are
course.
wonderful.
Thank
Oh,
you so much. So before I let you go, is there any last words, quote, anything that you want our audience to hear?
just know that I am here for all of you. I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at C Michelle Carter. Anytime you have a question, please feel free to send it my way. I try to keep dialogue open, and just anything you need, just let me know.
Thank you for extending that offer. All right, everybody. And there you have it. That is Christine. Thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.